Hey y'all, welcome back to MamaFin's Kitchen. It's Saturday night and my husband is playing in the pit orchestra for our local civic theater. So I'm home by myself, with just me and the dog, and we're hanging out together. But I thought I would get a jump on the week and get us some little egg bites made for me to have for breakfast during the week, this coming week. And I thought I'd bring y'all into my kitchen and let you see how we can do this. So you're probably familiar with these little egg bites that you find at a really well-known coffee place that's nationwide, but they're kind of a knockoff version of that we're going to make in our handy dandy pressure cooker over here. So we'll get started. Doesn't take very long to get these little boogers whipped up, and they're pretty tasty, and you can tweak them however that you want to. So first of all, let's run through our cast of characters that you're going to need to make these little egg bites. So the first thing that you're going to need is some eggs. For this, you'll need 4 eggs. These happen to be farm eggs from my parents. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Happy day. So 4 eggs is what you're going to need. And then you're going to need a container of Gorgonzola cheese. I just get this at my local Kroger. Then you're going to want some heavy whipping cream. And then you're going to want some spinach. I just get the frozen kind. Frozen leaf kind, not the chopped kind. But if all you can find is the chopped kind right now, especially during COVID, things are kind of limited. You never know what you're going to find. That's totally fine. You can also use fresh spinach, but for this, it's kind of faster to do the frozen kind. So that would be great. You'll love it. And then we want some fire roasted red peppers. They just come in the jar, already cooked. And then some Colby Jack cheese that's shredded up. And then we need some spices. Our spices are going to be onion powder, garlic powder, and then we're going to need salt and pepper. So that's our cast of characters, and we're going to get started. So to make these little egg bites, there is a piece of special equipment that you're going to need to use inside of your pressure cooker. You're going to need to get one of these little silicone molds. They're an egg bite mold. You'll find them on Amazon, and I have 3 of them. I like to make multiple batches a lot of the time. Tonight we're just going to make a single batch, and it fills 1 tray. So a single batch of these will make about 7 that will fill this little tray. But if you want to do multiple so that you can prepare for your family for the week, get yourself a set of like 2 or 3 of them so that you can flop them in and out of your pressure cooker. And I can fit 3 of these stacked up in my pressure cooker at one time. Most of the time I do 2 so that I've got 14, but you can stack up to 3 if you want to. We'll talk about that just a little bit later. But we need to get this prepared just a little bit. So go ahead and spray it down with some nonstick cooking spray. Just give it a good spray. And then we're going to set him aside for just a second. Okay, but get him sprayed down. Set him aside. And then we want to prepare our roasted red peppers. And our roasted red peppers come in the jar, like I said. You're just going to do about a fourth of a cup, something like that. So when you take your roasted red peppers out, they'll be in big chunks like this. And you're probably just going to take like 2 of those out. And we're going to cut these up and dice these up. So if you want to just slice into fine strips, and then we'll dice them up. So once you get those diced up, we're just going to set these over here off to the side, and we're going to talk about our spinach for just a second. So I like to use the frozen spinach just because it's faster for me. If you have like spinach, salad type spinach in your refrigerator, just a little baby spinach, cook that on your stovetop, just saute it down and saute it for just a little bit, and you can use that too. But it's really fast for me to use the frozen kind. But the one thing that I want to tell you is when you do it, make sure you get all the water out of it. So drain it off and press it out on some paper towels just to make sure that you get all that water out, because you don't want it to add water to your eggs and make them kind of runny and that kind of thing. But the chopped spinach or the leaf spinach that's frozen is really fantastic. If you're kind of running low on time and you forget that you haven't thawed it out in time to do this, all you have to do is put it in like a strainer and run really hot water over it, and you'll bring it up to temperature really quick. So you'll get that ice and get it from its unfrozen state into kind of a loose thawed state. So you can absolutely do that when you're running short on time. That's actually what I did tonight. So because I hadn't really thought about doing this ahead very much, so I just ran it under some hot water, get it nice and thawed, and you'll be ready to rock and roll. So we're gonna prep our little egg bite molds with our veggies. The one thing that I wanna tell you about these egg bite molds and these little egg bites is you can twist these ingredients as much as you want. You know, whatever that your family likes. If you don't like roasted red peppers and spinach, this is kind of a vegetarian version. But if you don't want a veggie version, you could use sausage and cheese. You could use diced ham, cheese, bacon. You could use onions and mushrooms. I made some of these for my niece one time that were mushrooms and onions. But you could do mushroom, onion, spinach. You could do pretty much anything that you kind of put into an omelet, whatever that you like, whatever that your family likes, go for it. The only thing that you need to remember is whatever that you're putting into these needs to be cooked already. So if you're putting sausage into it, make sure that you brown it off first. And saute your onions, things like that, garlic, whatever that you want. Make sure that it's pre-cooked before you put it in here, because it's not going to be in the pressure cooker long enough to cook that, especially proteins. So just make sure that you cook those off, whatever the ingredient that you're going to put into this, but mix it up, do whatever you like for your family and what they like, and you can make these personalized to you. But tonight, like I said, we're going to do roasted red pepper, spinach with some gorgonzola cheese. And you can mix up the cheeses too. If your family doesn't like gorgonzola, put in some feta or put in some cottage cheese. You can replace that too. Anything like that, you can absolutely put into this mix. You can substitute out, instead of the Colby Jack cheese that I'm going to put in here, you could use pepper jack, you could use cheddar, you could use white cheddar, anything like that. So just make this really personal to you, and you can diversify it and do it however that you want and what your family likes. So the first step that we're going to do is we want to put our ingredients that are going to go into our little miniature omelets into the molds. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of cheese down inside of each one of these. Just about a teaspoon, not very much, but about a teaspoon down in the bottom. And then we're going to sprinkle in a little bit of the spinach. And a little bit of the red pepper. So just poke that down into each of these little wells. And that's why it doesn't take very much of each of these ingredients. And that's why a lot of times I'll make these in multiple batches, so I can kind of dirty things up at one time. But yeah, about a quarter of a cup of your roasted red peppers and your spinach or whatever that you want to put in here will be just fine. So the way that looks when we get done is something like that. Okay, so we've got our cheese in the bottom, our roasted red peppers, and our spinach. Then we're just going to set this aside while we prep the egg part of this. One thing that will be very, very handy for you when making these, if you've got one in your kitchen, is an immersion blender. I love an immersion blender. This is one from DeLonghi that I've had for a really long time, but KitchenAid makes a version too, but it's sometimes known as a stick blender. But these immersion blenders are fantastic for doing these little egg bites, because you just make a mess out of one thing. It's really easy cleanup. Or you could use even a regular blender if you don't have one of these, but these are really not that expensive. They're like 40, 50, 60 bucks. And you can find a really good one. Like I said, the KitchenAid one is really good. I have it too. But this is fantastic because you can, as you'll see, you're going to immerse this right down into the liquid. It's fantastic for making soups, for pureeing, anything like sauces that you want that you're making, tomato sauces, soups, this kind of eggs. I use it to make scrambled eggs all the time, or to mix up pancake batter. It's really fantastic and super useful in your kitchen. So if you don't have one of these, it might be worth it just to invest it. And the great thing about it is they don't take up very much space. They're kind of small and compact, and they don't take up a lot of space in your kitchen too. Sometimes where like a blender or a food processor kind of takes up a lot of space, this really doesn't. So good investment in your kitchen if you don't have one. So get yourself an immersion blender. And for this, I've got my 4 eggs. I put them into a pitcher. You're going to see this is in like a glass pitcher. This is going to make it really easy to pour into our vessels later. So, and it's really easy to use the immersion blender in this as well. So put your 4 eggs down into your pitcher, and then we're going to put in our seasonings. We're going to put in about a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of pepper. And then I also want you to put in a teaspoon of onion powder and garlic powder. And we're going to put in that whole container of gorgonzola cheese. This is about a 4 or 5 ounce container. So just plug that down in there. And then you need a 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. And you're gonna say to yourself, boy, that looks funky. It does look a little funky right at the moment, but that's okay. And if you've got leftover Colby Jack cheese and you wanna put a little bit of that in there too, by all means, feel free. So we're gonna take our immersion blender and we're just gonna blend these ingredients right in this pitcher together until it's nice and foamy. And on that immersion blender, all you're really gonna do is rinse it under hot soapy water, wash it off and dry it and put it away. But our eggs are all blended up here and they're looking nice and kind of frothy, and that's exactly what you want. So you've blended up all that cheese until it gets nice and smooth down in there and all those seasonings, and everything's doing this just in this one pitcher. Man, if I could talk, it would be helpful. So it makes it super easy now to fill our little egg bite molds. And I want you to fill these about 3/4 of the way full. Not quite all the way up because they will expand a little bit. So just fill them about 3/4 full. And doing this with the immersion blender right in the pitcher makes it super easy, super fast, and easy to fill these little containers. If you have a little bit extra, you can do a second batch. Not a problem. Not a problem at all. Then just take a little spoon, and I want you just to kind of stir up those ingredients that you've got down in there. Just give it a little stir, just so all of those little peppers and spinach and cheese kind of gets blended into that egg mixture. Give it a little stir. So that everything's kind of evenly distributed in our egg mixture. So then they're gonna look something like that, okay? Okay, y'all, so our next step is we gotta get ready to put these into the pressure cooker. So I want you to take your pressure cooker and I want you to put the trivet down inside of it, and I want you to add 1 cup of water to it. And then we're gonna set our pressure cooker for 8 minutes on the steam function. So you should have a steam function. So you push the steam, and then we're gonna set our time to 8 minutes. Okay, and it's gonna preheat while we get things ready here. So in order to get it ready, all we're gonna do is our little egg bite mold right here. We're gonna cover it really tightly with aluminum foil. Now, because of the fluted edges of that little silicone pan, you're gonna wanna squish it around those little petal type areas. If you've got a silicone sling, like this one, you can use that for this recipe to put this down into your pot. If you don't have a silicone sling, you can make yourself one out of aluminum foil, but we're just gonna put our silicone sling, put our little molds right here onto our silicone sling and put it right inside of our pot, down inside, and we're gonna lock our lid in place, and off we go. So we're going to let that steam now for 8 minutes. And once it's done cooking, after it's done steaming in here for 8 minutes, then we want to leave these in here and let them naturally release for 10 minutes. So once it's done at its 8-minute time, then you're going to wait until it tells you that it's got 10 minutes of a natural release on here. And then you're going to let out whatever steam and vapor that is left inside here. Okay, so we're just going to let this rock and roll and do its thing. We'll come back when they're done. Okay, kids, so we're back, and we have ended our cook time. So now we're just waiting. We're gonna let this naturally release inside of our pressure cooker right here, our handy dandy little friend, for 10 minutes. So we're gonna let this sit here in its function for 10 minutes. Cool? All right, friends, so our pressure cooker has finished cooking, and we've sat here for the 10 minutes of the natural release. So we're gonna go ahead and take these little egg bites out of here. So when you open your pressure cooker, as always, be careful. Go ahead and let that tip down inside of your machine so that any of the water that's in there goes into the machine and then not running down your arm, because it is wicked hot, okay? And then we'll set our lid right there. And then very carefully, with a towel or a pot holder or something, pull your silicone sling out, or your aluminum foil sling if that's what you've used. It's hot, so be real careful. Pull that out, tip it maybe just a little to make sure if there's any water that has settled on top of that aluminum foil on your little egg bite molds, that you take that off. We're gonna set that sling to the side over here. And we're gonna very carefully take our aluminum foil off of our egg bites. Woo, they are looking fantastico. I mean, look at those. Oh, wow, that's hot. So be careful. But they look really fantastic. They look amazing. Now, what I'd like for you to do is, after you take the aluminum foil off of these, then I want you to let them sit here and just let them sit on a cooling rack or on a cutting board or something like that. Just let them sit and let them stand for about 5 to 10 minutes before you take them out of this container. So we're gonna let these sit here for just about 5 minutes or so, okay? All right, friends, so we have let these sit now for about 5 minutes, so we're gonna turn these out. And they just pop right out of there. And if for some reason, if they don't, just give them a little push on the top of here. But look at that, they just pop right out beautifully. And man, they look so good. They're still really warm right at the moment, but I'm gonna cut one and we're gonna try it. I want you to see how beautiful these look. I mean, they are fantastic. They're airy, they're light, they're fluffy, and just delicious. And I will tell you, so good in that they are really decadent. And right now, while they're warm, I mean, you get a little bit of that onion and the garlic, and of course the spinach and the roasted red pepper, but then that cheese just kind of melts in, and you've got the little bit of the saltiness from the gorgonzola, which is fantastic. And I mean, these are just delicious. Delicious, and so much cheaper than what you would pay at that fancy schmancy coffee place to get these. And you can tailor them, like I said, to the ingredients that your family likes. And actually this video was a request from my friend Nicole and my Bailey Boo. So hey Nicole, hey Bailey Boo, I hope you guys make these. And speaking of that, this is a really great recipe that you can kind of do with your kids, because you can mix up the egg mixture, but they can kind of choose what they want to put in of their own things, whether they want bacon or sausage or cheese or whatever things that they like. So it's a really great opportunity to get your kids involved in your cooking in your kitchen, and it's a great way to like I said, really get them involved. And when kids participate in their cooking, they're much more likely to eat what you've put on the table in front of them. So if you can get them involved in what you're cooking for dinner or breakfast and those kinds of things, when they participate and when they do it and they help you, they're way more likely to try things that they maybe would frown at, and things of that nature too. So get your kids involved in cooking with you in the kitchen. Pressure cooking is a great way to do that. These egg bites are a super simple way to do it. And I will tell you, these also refrigerate really well. And you can reheat them during the week. Bake them on a Sunday afternoon, reheat them during the week for your breakfast when you've got busy schedules, etc. All you have to do is just, once they're done cooking, just let them cool to about room temperature on your countertop, and then put them in a Ziploc bag and toss them in the refrigerator. And then all you want to do is just pop them in the microwave on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever mornings. And you can pop them in the microwave for just about a minute or so until you warm them up, and they're great reheated. So it makes a really great kind of make ahead breakfast and those kinds of things that you can throw some toast in, have these, and boom, you've got a really nutritious breakfast for yourself or for your kids during the week when you're busy with working from home and trying to do Zoom meetings and all that good kind of stuff. So Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this. If you did, hit that subscribe button down there in the corner, and you'll get notifications from YouTube of when I'm posting new videos and things like that. I appreciate y'all coming to Mama Fin's Kitchen. You can also check out this recipe on my blog. It's lfinson.blogspot.com. And again, hit that subscribe button if you like what you see. And we'll see you next time in Mama Fin's Kitchen. Take care, stay healthy, stay well, love one another, be kind to one another. We'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.